Good morning, learners. Our subject for today is English 5 for Quarter 3, Week 1. And our topic is text types, classification, and explanation. And we have the objective. At the end of the lesson, you are expected to distinguish text types according to purpose and features, classification, and explanation. What are text? Text are written for a variety of purposes using different forms and standards of composition. These forms of writing are known as text types. The phrase text type is a way of classifying and defining different types of language interaction, both spoken and written. It refers to the purpose of a text and the way it is written. We have different text types. We have the classification, explanation, the enumeration, and time order. Let us discuss the first one, and that is classification. Classification, it classifies, describes, and gives information about people, animals, and things or phenomena. Example: weather is the continuous changing conditions of air around us. These changes can take many forms, including wind, rain, and snow. They influence how people live every day. When it rains or snows, many persons are often forced to stay indoors. Weather also affects one's choice of clothes. One wear light clothes when the weather is hot and thick, close-fitting clothes when it is cold. Another text type is explanation. Explanation is a factual text type that explains how or why something happened. It begins with the topic, describes item related to the topic in the right order, and explains how these items are related to each other. It may have a conclusion, and this type is written in the present tense. Example: the buildings the building of gases in Earth's atmosphere causes the greenhouse effect. With so many gases in the atmosphere, Earth becomes like a greenhouse because the heat from the surface cannot easily escape into the outer space. Because of the gases that block the heat from escaping to the outer space, there is a global warming. Thus, the temperature of the Earth rises. This time, let us answer Learning Task 1. Directions. Look at the picture below and answer the questions in your notebook. The first question is, what do you think is the message of the picture? And my answer is, the message of the picture is that children are not allowed to go to school, so there was modular, online, and blended learning because of the COVID-19 virus. Number 2, how did you adjust in the considered new normal of schooling? Answer: at first, it was very difficult since we are so used to the standard way of going to school, but with the help of our parents and teachers, I was able to adopt the new normal way of schooling. We have also online kumustahan with our teacher that help us a lot in learning the lessons because we are given the chance to ask questions or clarification about the lesson. And number three question, based on your answer from the previous question, what is your purpose in writing it? Is it to classify, to explain, or to enumerate? And why? And the answer? For me, the purpose of the text is to explain because the given picture is really happening, and as a student, we are experiencing it not to go to school, and we are also not allowed to go out anywhere. And also, the answers from the given questions ask you to explain your answer. And for learning task 2, letter A, directions. Read the text below and answer the following questions in your notebook. And here is the text. Energy and nutrients are transferred from organisms to organisms through their feeding relationships. Producers are green plants, algae, or microorganisms that are capable of making their own food. They make their own food by converting the energy from the sun into chemical energy. Producers provide energy and nutrients to other organisms. Consumers get their energy by feeding on plants and other organisms. Therefore, all animals are consumers. Organisms that eat only plants are herbivores, and living things that eat other animals are called carnivores. Some animals eat both plants and animals are omnivores. Questions. Number 1. What is the text about? Answer. It is about energy and nutrients. Number 2. What are the two organisms stated from the text? Answer. The two organisms stated in the text are producers and consumers. Number 3 question. How is the producer and consumer classified or described in the paragraph? Answer. Producers provide energy and nutrients to other organisms while consumers get their energy by feeding on plants and other organisms. And number 4 question. What is the purpose of the writer in writing the text? Answer. The purpose of the writer in writing the text is to classify and describe the two organisms. Number 5. The selection is an example of what text type? Answer. The selection is an example of classification text type. Let us move on to learning task 2, letter B. Directions. To understand the text even more, go back to the selection above and fill out the chart below. List down the characteristics of each organism in your notebook. We have the producer and the consumer. Okay, so let us answer learning task 2, letter B. So for the producers, we have the green plants, the algae, and the microorganisms. While the consumer, we have the herbivores, carnivores, and the omnivores. Next, we have the learning task 3, directions. Read the text below and answer the following questions in your notebook. And here is the text. The title of the text is Rice Terraces of the Philippine Cordilleras Outstanding Universal Value. The rice terraces of the Philippine Cordilleras are an outstanding example of a developed living cultural landscape. They can be traced as far back as 2 millennia ago in the pre-colonial Philippines. They are found in the remote areas of the Philippine Cordillera mountain range on the northern island of Luzon, Philippine archipelago. These historic terraces cover an extensive area. The property consists of 5 clusters of the most intact and impressive terraces located in 4 municipalities. They are all the products of Ifugao ethnic group, a minority community that has lived on these mountains for thousands of years. The Ifugao rice terraces are an ideal example of a living cultural landscape of beauty beyond compare. The Ifugao rice terraces are valuable contributions of our ancestors to mankind. They were built 2,000 years ago and passed on through generations, and an example of an ancient civilization that overcame challenges passed by modernization. Built on steeper slopes of high mountains and careful carving of the natural shapes of the hills, the Ifugao rice terrace have complex irrigation systems. Water comes from the forest of the mountain tops. The maintenance of the living rice terraces shows that the whole community worked as one. It is based on the knowledge of the rich variety of biological resources which exist in the Ifugao agri-ecosystem. Questions. First, what makes the rice terraces extraordinary? Answer. It is because rice terraces is an example of a developed living cultural landscape of beauty beyond compare, and it is made by hard-working Ifugao ethnic group. Number 2 question. Why do you think the Ifugao built rice terraces? Answer. The Ifugaos built rice terraces for many reasons, but mostly to provide food for their families. When they built this thousands of years ago, they only had basic tools, but the Ifugao managed to create an engineering marvel. Number 3 question. How do the rice terraces reflect the culture of the Ifugao? Answer. The Ifugao rice terraces are valuable contributions of our ancestors to mankind. They were built 2,000 years ago and passed on through generations, and an example of an ancient civilization that overcame challenges passed by modernization. Number 4. Why do you think the article is entitled Outstanding Universal Value? Answer. Because the Ifugao rice terraces are an ideal example of a living cultural language of beauty beyond compare. And number 5. What is the purpose of the writer or the author in writing the selection? Answer. The purpose of the author in writing the selection is to explain why the rice terraces of the Philippine Cordilleras are considered as an outstanding cultural value. This time, let us answer Learning Task 4. Directions. Identify the dialogue of each character below, whether it is a classification text type or explanation text type. Write your answer in your notebook. And here is the first dialogue. James, the president of the student council, called an online meeting. James, good day, my fellow student council members. I would like to tell you about the project Reach Out, which we will implement this school year. This project aims to reach out grade 5 learners who do not have gadgets or internet connectivity. Through this, we can guide them whenever they have difficulties in answering the modules or even increase their reading speed. Now, what do you think is the text type of the dialogue? Answer, explanation. Okay, so let's move on to number 2. According to Agnes, that's very helpful. I know some learners who can help through this project. With our joint effort, we can reach those students who are not guided by their parents, especially when they are working. This project can also help our school in putting awareness to the community in which they can also help. But how do we do that? Answer, classification. Number 3, Lani. We can divide our active volunteers into two. Jess, Aliyah, and Mika can be the first group, while Vaughn, Riza, and Kit will be in the second group. Group A will provide assistance in the areas near the school, while Group B will guide those learners who are outside the barangay but are enrolled in our school. Answer, classification. Number 4. According to Krisha, we can also take part in this project together with the teachers. We can provide reading materials such as novels like Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, The Pyramid, which are for kids. And there are short stories like The Ant and Grasshopper, The Hare and the Tortoise, and Three Little Pigs. Answer, classification. And number 5, according to Annie, that would be fantastic. I hope that this project can prosper so that we can also reach the barangay officials. They might offer us more help if we do it right, and there might be more volunteers. We can also ask help from volunteers through social media. I'm so excited. And the answer is explanation. Okay, so this time let us move on to learning task 5. Directions. Sort the following titles of the text below according to its type. Write the title under the correct heading in the table and do this in your notebook. So we have the letter to the principal about an accident. How did the Taal volcano erupt? Do-it-yourself paper dolls. Types of aquatic animals. Kinds of natural resources. How to study for an exam. The three aspects of verbs. The types of vascular plants. The life cycle of a butterfly. And the causes and effects of plastic use. So you have to Write the title under the correct heading. By On the first column, we have classification text type and the explanation text type. Okay, so here are the answers. For the classification text type, we have types of aquatic animals, kinds of natural resources, the three aspects of verbs, and the types of vascular plants. While the explanation text type, we have the letter to the principal about an accident, how did the Taal volcano erupt, do-it-yourself paper dolls, how to study for an exam, the life cycle of a butterfly, and the causes and effects of plastic use. Let us move on to assessment. Directions. Read the following paragraphs. Distinguish and write the type for each text. For letter A, classification text type. And then B, explanation text type. So here is the number one paragraph. Forests are very useful. They supply lumber, which is used for building houses, stones, offices, and other buildings. Some forest trees give materials for making pulp, paper, wallboard, and furniture, rattan, gum, and firewood. Medicinal plants are also taken from forests. Okay, and the answer is letter B, explanation text type. For number two, the answer is explanation text type. But the paragraph is the amount of water on earth remain constant, but its form is always changing from solid to liquid, from liquid to gas, and back again. It moves in pattern called the water cycle. Heat from the sun causes water in oceans, lakes, and rivers to evaporate into water vapor. Further, vapor is given off by plants and animals. Okay, so for number three, animals are born in different ways. Some animals are egg laying while some are born alive. Animals which lay eggs to the environment are birds, snakes, frogs, turtles, lizards, and insects, while animals which undergo gestation are born alive. Cats, cows, dogs, and whales are animals which are born alive. The answer is letter A, classification text type. Let us reflect. For the reflection, in your notebook, write your personal insights about the lessons using the prompts below. I understand that blank. I realize that blank. I need to learn more about blank. And that concludes our lesson for this morning. Thank you and have a blessed morning, everyone.